The stars above Bastion Prime glimmered like silent witnesses awaiting a verdict. Admiral Cassandra Vale stood before the panoramic viewport, her reflection framed against the shifting constellations. Even in the heart of the Terran Empire's most fortified stronghold, there was a sense of unease, as if the galaxy itself was holding its breath. A soft chime broke the quiet. "Admiral," said Commander Isharin, stepping into the command deck. "The Dominion dreadnought has reached the perimeter. They're requesting a direct channel to all Terran systems." Cass turned, the faint steel in her eyes sharpening. "Patch it through." The lights dimmed. A towering hollow emitter rose from the floor, projecting the image of an Archon emissary wrapped in ceremonial armor. His elongated features carried the cold arrogance of a species that had ruled for 90 millennia. "Humans," he began, voice echoing with calculated disdain. "I speak on behalf of High Imperator Zalthun Zorin. The Archon Dominion extends a final ultimatum. Submit your fleets, relinquish your sovereignty, and accept Dominion stewardship. Refusal means eradication." Whispers spread across the deck. Cass remained still. The emissary's tone hardened. "You have 3 cycles. Choose surrender and preservation, or defiance and extinction." Cass stepped forward. "I have a question," she said. "Why now? Humanity has existed in this galaxy for less than 1,000 years. In that time, we haven't threatened Dominion territory. So what exactly provoked this ultimatum?" The emissary's expression twitched, betraying irritation at being challenged. "You have grown too quickly," he replied. "Your empire expands, innovates, adapts. You disrupt the order forged long before your species crawled from its cradle. The Dominion cannot permit instability. In other words," Cass said, "you fear us." A hiss escaped him, a sound between anger and disbelief. "Fear? We fear nothing. We simply enforce balance. Your compliance prevents unnecessary casualties." Cass held his gaze. "Terrans don't kneel." "You will," he said coldly. "Either in submission or in ruin." The hollow vanished. The deck remained silent for several seconds. The weight of the moment pressed against every officer like a shifting gravity well. Commander Wren exhaled. "They're serious." "Of course they are," Cass said. "They've been preparing for this for years. They just waited for the right excuse." A second chime echoed through the chamber. "Admiral," Wren said, "the High Council requests your presence." Immediately. The council chamber was a circle of polished obsidian, its center pulsing with holographic star maps showing Dominion troop concentrations. Senators and strategists filled the room, each wearing the strained expressions of those forced to confront an old truth: peace had been an illusion. "Admiral Vale," Chancellor Marin said, "you've heard the ultimatum. We must determine our response." Senator Halbert, a staunch isolationist, leaned forward. "The Dominion commands fleets beyond anything we can field. If resistance guarantees destruction, shouldn't we explore negotiation?" Cass met his gaze. "They aren't offering negotiation. They're offering slavery disguised as stewardship." Murmurs rippled across the chamber. "What if limited compliance buys us time?" another senator asked. "A partial surrender?" "No," Cass said. "They won't stop. They see us as a threat simply because we exist. The moment we slow down, we give them room to tighten the leash. And once they do, we won't get another chance." A map shifted, displaying 3 Terran colonies marked in red. Smoldering ruins replaced their once thriving habitats. Cass felt her throat tighten. She remembered the rescue missions. The silence of cities turned to ash. The frozen bodies floating among shattered hulls. She steadied her voice. "We've already seen their version of lessons. They destroyed these colonies last year. Investigations concluded they used an Archon energy signature intentionally. They wanted to warn us. And now they've stopped warning," Chancellor Marin said grimly. "They're ready to strike." Senator Halbert looked away. "Then what do you propose?" Cass stepped toward the central hologram, her tone firm. "We can't outnumber them. But we can outthink them. If we hit fast, disrupt their momentum, fracture their command lines, we force them to reconsider the cost of conquest. Humans excel at making impossible fights winnable. Our adaptability terrifies them. Silence hung over the chamber as the council absorbed her words. Finally, Marin spoke. The decision must be unanimous. Surrender or resistance. There was a long pause. One by one, the senators voted. When the last seal illuminated, Marin turned toward Cass. The council rejects the Dominion's ultimatum, he said. Admiral Vale, you are hereby appointed Supreme Commander of the Terran Defense Network and all offensive fleets. Cass bowed her head once. I accept. Marin's voice softened but remained steady. The galaxy will remember what we decide in this hour. Make sure it remembers us with pride. Cass nodded. I will. Back aboard Bastion Prime, Cass stood alone in her command chamber. The stars drifted slowly, as though waiting for her next move. Commander Wren entered quietly. Orders, Admiral? Cass breathed in, letting the enormity of responsibility settle within her. Then she straightened. Transmit a message to all Terran systems, she said. Every outpost, every ship, every soldier. Wren readied the recorder. Cass spoke clearly, her voice steady and resolute. This is Admiral Cassandra Vale. The Archon Dominion believes humanity will bow to fear. They believe we will surrender our will, our homes, our future. They believe strength comes from age and arrogance. They are wrong. Terrans endure. Terrans adapt. Terrans rise. The Dominion demanded our submission. We answer with unity and resolve. She paused, letting the words anchor themselves. Prepare for conflict. Defend our worlds. Stand with honor. We fight not for conquest, but for survival, and the right to exist without chains. Wren sent the transmission. For a moment, Cass watched the message streak toward 1,000 star systems, carrying humanity's refusal across the void. Then she whispered, almost to herself, You wanted a war, you'll get one. The Terran Vanguard fleet departed Bastion Prime in a staggered formation, engines scattering pale blue wakes across the starfield. Admiral Cassandra Vale stood on the command deck of the TDS Resolute, watching as her ships accelerated toward the contested frontier. The weight of her new authority pressed on her shoulders, but beneath that weight pulsed a fierce clarity. Humanity had chosen to stand. Now she would ensure they didn't stand alone or unprepared. Fleet status? She asked. Commander Isharin scanned her console. All wings ready? Recon vessels report Dominion movement in the Ardent Corridor. Their vanguard is probing the perimeter. Good. Let's give them something to report back. Cass activated the tactical display. A rotating star map unfolded, marked with Dominion formations, dense phalanxes of ships arranged in rigid geometric patterns. They rely on doctrine, Cass said. They don't expect unpredictability. We'll exploit that. All squadrons prepare for hit-and-slide runs. No prolonged engagements. Wren nodded. Understood. The Resolute surged forward, leading the fleet into the first strike. The Ardent Corridor was a narrow region of space threaded with micro-wormholes and magnetic distortions. Dominion fleets avoided it for its unpredictability. Terrans, however, had converted that chaos into opportunity. Cass had trained her pilots to navigate the corridor's hazards like second nature. Enemy destroyers locking weapons, Wren reported. 3 ahead, 3 flanking. Cass leaned forward slightly. Initiate echo pattern. Keep them guessing. Terran fighters swarmed from the Resolute in sharp, spiraling vectors. Their graviton torpedoes completed firing arcs before Dominion targeting systems could adjust. The first volley tore through a destroyer's shields, collapsing its hull inward in a flash of violet flame. Dominion ships returned fire, but their beams slashed empty space. They're recalibrating, Wren warned. Let them, Cass replied. Redirect fighters to the flanks. Disable engines, not hulls. Make them float. Terran strike craft darted through the debris cloud, targeting propulsion arrays. One Dominion vessel spun helplessly, momentum dragging it into a gravitational shear. Another lost stability and collided with its own escort. Within minutes, the first Dominion formation crumbled. A junior officer turned, stunned. "Admiral, they're retreating." Cass didn't smile, though she felt the temptation. "Of course they are. They weren't expecting resistance." Her victory, however, carried a shadow. The Dominion rarely made rash moves. There was always a deeper motive. Cass knew this was merely the opening act. Hours later, Cass convened her officers in the Resolute's war room. A hollow map displayed battle outcomes across 3 front lines. Terrans were holding, but losses were climbing. Wren broke the quiet. "Their vanguard was too lightly equipped. Almost as if they expected us to surrender without a shot. Or," Cass said, "they test us before deploying something heavier." Before the officers could respond, Lieutenant Solis entered briskly. "Admiral, we intercepted a Dominion intelligence vessel near the Persei belt. It's intact. They attempted to self-destruct but failed. We have prisoners." Cass rose immediately. "Bring me the lead officer." Minutes later, the Dominion captive stood restrained within the interrogation chamber. His armor had been removed, revealing pale, mottled skin and a ridge of bioluminescent nodes along his spine, an archon of administrative caste. He glared at Cass with a mix of fury and fear. "Humans strike like vermin. You scurry in the shadows of real power." Cass seated herself opposite him. "You crossed into our space. You threatened our existence. Now you complain about our methods? You cannot win," he hissed. "You misunderstand the tide you resist. Then enlighten me." He hesitated, then spoke with reluctant pride. "The High Imperator grows impatient. He will activate the cradle." Wren, observing nearby, stiffened. "What is the cradle?" The captive's chin lifted sharply, too sharply for someone who'd lost a battle. "The Star Cradle. A superweapon forged before your species formed continents. It harnesses singularity energy. A single activation collapses entire systems." Cass remained motionless, but inside her pulse thudded. "And you intend to use this against us?" "It is already being prepared," he said. "Your worlds will vanish without a trace." Wren leaned toward Cass. "If this is true—" "It is," Cass said. The Dominion officer's demeanor held no deception. Archons didn't bluff with extinction. Cass stood. "Take him to containment." As guards removed the prisoner, Wren whispered, "How do we fight something like that?" Cass's voice lowered. "We don't wait for it to reach us. We find it. We stop it." Wren frowned at the star map. "We don't know where it is." "Not yet," Cass replied. "But the Dominion just told us their greatest strength, confidence. They assume we can't reach the cradle. That means it's hidden. Likely in territory too dangerous for conventional fleets." Wren nodded slowly. "The Halo Rift." Cass's silence confirmed it. The council call came shortly after the interrogation report. Cass stood before the hollow channel as senators flickered into view. Chancellor Marin spoke first. "Admiral, is the intelligence credible?" "Yes," Cass said. "The Dominion plans to use a system-killing device. It must be neutralized before activation." Senator Halbert sounded strained. "You propose sending a fleet into the rift? That region devours ships. It's suicide." "If we do nothing," Cass said, "every Terran system becomes a grave. The choice isn't between risk and safety. It's between decisive action and extinction." The chamber fell quiet. Marin exhaled slowly. "How long do we have?" 20 days, Cass answered. "That is the estimated activation timeline." The council debated, voices colliding in fear and hesitation. Finally, Marin turned back. "You will proceed," he said. "Assemble a task force and seek the cradle." Cass nodded. "Understood." Halbert looked away, defeated. "May we pray you're right." Back aboard the Resolute, Cass stood with Wren overlooking the fleet. Wren spoke quietly. 20 days isn't much time." "It's enough," Cass said. "It has to be. You think the Dominion underestimated us. They always have. Cass clasped her hands behind her back. That's why we're still here. Ren managed a faint smile. And why we might have a chance. A message pulsed on Cass's console, the latest fleet readiness report. Everything was moving faster than projected. Humanity had been jolted awake. Cass tapped the intercom. All Terran forces. This is Admiral Vale. We begin Phase 2. Prepare for deep strike operations. We move soon. She closed the channel. The stars outside glimmered with cold urgency. Humanity had 20 days left. And Cass intended to use every one of them. The halo rift dominated the forward view screen like a swirling wound carved into space. Clouds of plasma drifted through the region, illuminated by fractured starlight that bent into impossible angles. Distortion currents rippled across the rift's boundary, twisting colors into iridescent streaks. Even veteran Terran navigators grew quiet in its presence. Admiral Cassandra Vale studied the spectacle with focused calm. Behind her, Commander Isharan waited, arms folded, scrutinizing sensor readings that changed faster than the ship's systems could interpret. The rift is even worse than projected, Ren said. Gravitational variance is shifting 3 times per minute. Cass nodded. Exactly why the Dominion thinks no one will follow them inside. Ren sighed. We're really doing this. Yes, Cass said. We don't get another chance. If the star cradle activates, everything ends. Before Rin could answer, the comm panel chimed. Admiral, Lieutenant Solis reported. The Archon rebel envoy has arrived. Cass exchanged a brief glance with Rin. Bring them to the conference chamber. The envoy stood with rigid posture, though her movements hinted at unease. She was younger than most Archons Cass had encountered, sleekly built, her bioluminescent spinal nodes glowing in muted amber patterns. Her name was Sharvana, representative of a dissident faction seeking liberation from the Dominion. You walk willingly into the rift, Sharvana said. Your kind is bold. Bold or desperate, Cass replied. Either way, survival requires action. Sharvana's gaze flickered. My faction wants the Dominion's reign to end. If you destroy the Star Cradle, their authority will fracture. But understand this, most Archons will not forgive betrayal. My presence here already marks me for execution. Then let's ensure the Dominion loses the power to enforce that, Cass said. Ren stepped forward. We need the exact coordinates of the cradle. And a safe path through the rift, or as close to safe as possible. Sharvana touched the table's holo interface. A star map appeared, distorted by rift anomalies. A narrow corridor shimmered faintly, unstable, but traversable with precision. This path forms only intermittently, she explained. Follow it, and you may reach the cradle before its activation. But if you deviate even slightly, your ships will scatter into dimensional fractures. Cass studied the route. How long does the corridor stay open? Not long, Sharvana answered. Minutes. Sometimes less. That's enough, Cass said. Sharvana paused, then added. There is something else. The Dominion has deployed advanced sentry fleets within the rift. They will attempt to intercept you. Their commander, Lord Marshal Zareth, is loyal to the Imperator and will not hesitate. Cass nodded once. Let them try. Hours later, preparations completed, the Vanguard fleet assembled before the rift's threshold. Engines dimmed as every vessel entered synchronized drift mode, reducing energy signatures to prevent premature detection. Cass stood at the command rail as the Resolute approached the shimmering boundary. All hands, she said over ship-wide comms. Maintain discipline. The rift reacts to fluctuations in energy output, navigation patterns, even mass distribution. Trust your instruments. Trust your training. We go together. The bow crossed the rift's veil. A wave of static washed over the deck. Light fractured into cascading patterns, bending around the hull like liquid glass. The sensation resembled falling sideways, though the ship remained level. Rin gripped the railing. Navigation systems are struggling. Gravity wells are forming and collapsing every few kilometers. Hold the corridor, Cass said. Keep us on Sharvana's vector. The Resolute pushed deeper into the rift. Colors shivered across the view screen, blending into sweeping arcs. Smaller escorts followed in perfect formation. Then the alarms flared. Contacts! Solis shouted. Multiple signatures emerging from distortion fields. Dominion ships, closing fast. Cass recognized the formation immediately. Marshal Zareth. The Dominion vessels descended like predator birds, sleek, angular, glowing with charged energy. Their weapons ignited with eerie violet flare. Prepare countermeasures, Cass ordered. Fleet, break into Trident pattern. Do not fire until they commit. The Dominion squadron advanced rapidly, convinced of their superiority even in hostile space. Zareth's voice crackled through calms. Human commander. You've wandered into the Imperator's domain. Turn back or be extinguished. Cass answered coolly. Not today. The Dominion ships opened fire. Surges of plasma lanced across the rift. Cass watched the beams twist mid-flight as gravitational anomalies bent their paths, creating chaotic spirals. Return fire! She commanded. Terran graviton projectiles streaked toward the Dominion line. Some evaporated into distortion currents, but others struck true. 2 Dominion ships spiraled apart, torn by warped gravity. Zareth responded with disciplined fury. His cruisers plunged straight into the Terran formation, weapon arrays burning. A beam sliced across the Resolute's shields. The deck trembled. Ren braced herself. We can't sustain this much longer. Then we don't, Cass said. Deploy the lance? Ren's eyes widened, but she didn't hesitate. Charging graviton lance. A deep resonance filled the ship as the weapon powered up. The rift distorted further, rippling like disturbed water. Fire, Cass said. A column of compressed gravitational energy erupted from the Resolute. It collided with the leading Dominion warship, crushing its mass inward until it imploded silently. A shockwave spiraled outward, flinging nearby ships into destabilizing currents. Zareth's fleet faltered. Sharvana watched the display from the auxiliary station. You wield gravity like a blade. We wield whatever keeps us alive, Cass said. Zareth attempted to regroup, but the rift itself turned against him. His flagship drifted into a singularity pocket forming directly behind it. Cass seized the opening. All ships, she ordered, push forward. Do not engage further. Our goal is the cradle, not this battle. The Terran fleet surged around the collapsing Dominion formation. Zareth's flagship vanished in a shudder of warped light. Marshal Zareth's forces are routed, Solis confirmed. But more will come, Sharvana warned. We must reach the cradle before they regroup. An hour later, the rift's distortions thinned, revealing a massive silhouette ahead. Cass stepped toward the glass, pulse tightening. The star cradle emerged like an artificial star forged inside a metal chrysalis. Rings of luminous energy girded its core, each rotating independently. Streams of stellar matter spiraled into containment fields, feeding the constructing singularity. It pulsed with a rhythm that felt disturbingly alive. Ren whispered, This thing could erase systems. Which is why we're here, Cass said. A Dominion blockade guarded the cradle, an immense armada spanning the approach corridor. Sharvana pointed to the display. That is the Imperator's personal guard. They will not retreat. Cass studied the blockade calmly. We don't need them to. We only need to break through. Ren swallowed hard. Our fleet is already strained. We can't win a prolonged battle. Cass's voice steadied. Then we won't fight one. We carve a path. Straight to the heart. The cradle pulsed again, brighter this time. Activation sequence accelerating, Sharvana warned. We're running out of time. Cass lifted her chin. Prepare for the final push. The Dominion blockade surrounding the star cradle stretched across the rift like a wall of steel and fire. Layered formations overlapped, their hulls shimmering with reinforced shielding designed to withstand cosmic distortion. Every gun emplacement, every interceptor wing, every defense node faced outward, ready to erase anything daring to cross the final threshold. Admiral Cassandra Vale's fleet drifted at the edge of sensor range, ship hulls flickering under rift turbulence. A quiet tension settled across the Resolute's bridge, anticipatory, sharp, electric. Commander Wren stood at Cass's side. "They've formed a triple phalanx. They expect a full assault. We're giving them something worse," Cass replied. "A direct incision." Wren nodded. "Cut the artery, reach the cradle." Cass scanned the tactical projection. The blockade's center cluster pulsed with heavy energy signatures, massive Dominion dreadnoughts commanded by elite officers. Breaking through would cost lives. But hesitating would cost everything else. "Transmit fleet orders," Cass said. "We advance in spear formation. Target their stabilizer ships. Without those, their line collapses." Wren relayed the commands. Across the fleet, Terran captains acknowledged with curt confirmations. Cass opened a channel. "All units, stay tight, stay focused. We strike once. Make it count." The fleet surged forward. The first volley lit the rift in violent colors. Dominion cannons hurled torrents of plasma, beams stretching in erratic curves as gravity shear bent their paths. Terran vessels weaved through them, shields flaring under near misses. "Shields holding at 70%, Wren reported. "Their targeting is adjusting." "Then we move faster," Cass said. "Deploy interceptor wings." Hundreds of Terran fighters streaked ahead, carving volatile paths through distortion eddies. They dodged incoming fire with uncanny precision, exploiting the Dominion's rigid formations. Explosions flared across the blockade as stabilizer ships ruptured in spirals of fractured metal. The phalanx rippled, its geometric cohesion slipping. Wren leaned closer to the display. "The breach is forming." "Drive through," Cass commanded. "Max thrust." The Resolute punched into the gap, engines roaring. Escort ships followed, absorbing stray fire as they carved open the path. The blockade collapsed inward, its once impenetrable line buckling under Terran pressure. But the Dominion wasn't defeated. A massive dreadnought, larger than any Cass had yet encountered, maneuvered to fill the breach. Its hull glowed with gold sigils. Sharvana stiffened at the sight. "That is Zoran's personal guard ship," she said quietly. "He's near." Cass felt a chill. "Then this ends today." The dreadnought unleashed a sweeping energy wave. The Resolute shuddered violently, consoles flickered, shields strained, hull plating groaned. Wren braced herself. "Engineering reports structural stress across 3 decks. We can't turn back," Cass said. "Return fire. Concentrate all forward guns." The Resolute's cannons roared, slicing beams across the dreadnought's shields. They flickered but held. "Focus the lance," Cass ordered. Wren hesitated only a second. "Charging!" The graviton lance hum built through the decks, a sound like distant thunder. "Fire!" The lance erupted with blinding force. Gravitational compression slammed into the dreadnought's forward shields, buckling them inward. Metal folded like distorted clay. The Dominion ship's core ruptured, collapsing into a localized singularity before detonating outward in a cascade of luminous shards. A path opened, straight toward the star cradle. "Take us in," Cass said. The cradle towered ahead, consuming the space around it. Rings of captured stellar matter spun faster, feeding the weapon's central sphere. Waves of gravitic resonance pulsed rhythmically, shaking nearby ships. "Activation cycle at critical threshold," Sharvana warned. "Minutes remain." Cass didn't hesitate. "Prepare boarding parties. We take out the core manually." Wren stared at her. "You're going inside?" Cass met her gaze. "I'm not sending others to finish what I started." Wren nodded slowly. "Then I'm going with you." Cass allowed a brief flicker of gratitude. "Let's move." Moments later, Cass, Wren, Sharvana, and a squad of Terran Marines descended onto the cradle's outer platform. The air shimmered with static. The structure hummed with power so immense it vibrated through bone. The platform's doors split open as Dominion guards charged. The Marines fired in controlled bursts, dropping enemy soldiers before they could regroup. Sharvana moved with swift precision, disabling 2 Archons with fluid strikes. Straight to the core chamber, Cass said. Move! They advanced through twisting corridors where gravity tilted unpredictably. Lights flickered. Arc conduits crackled overhead. Ren checked her scanner. Energy levels are spiking. The core is close. The next chamber opened into a vast sphere lined with rotating conduits. At its center hovered the Singularity Lattice, glowing, expanding, threatening collapse. And beneath it stood High Imperator Zalthlin Zoran. He turned slowly, regal and composed despite the chaos. His intricate armor pulsed with golden light. So, he said, voice echoing, humanity sends its brightest flame to burn against the dark. Cass stepped forward. This ends now, Zalthlin. He regarded her with ancient contempt. You break the old order, Admiral. You uplift chaos. You dare oppose what was perfected long before your kind breathed air. We choose our own future, Cass replied. Not one dictated by fear. Zalthlin's expression hardened. Then know this, your defiance births ruin. He raised a hand. Conduits flared, sending shockwaves across the chamber. Marines staggered. Cass held her ground. Ren fired. Zalthlin deflected the shot with a shimmering barrier. Sharvana stepped beside Cass. Your reign ends here, she said to the Imperator. Even your own people rise against you. Zalthlin's eyes narrowed. Traitor! He unleashed another shockwave. Sharvana fell to one knee but pushed herself upright, defiant. Cass saw the growing tremor in the core lattice. It was moments from catastrophic activation. We don't have time for him, she said. We overload the core. Ren stared at the pulsating lattice. An overload will collapse the entire cradle. Cass nodded. Exactly. Ren's eyes widened. And us with it. Cass met her gaze steadily. If we don't, everyone dies. Ren swallowed but accepted it. Tell me what to do. Cass moved toward the control pylons. Reroute the containment fields. Strip stabilizers. Force the singularity to expand faster than the lattice can regulate. Ren worked quickly. Sparks burst as systems ruptured. The cradle shook violently. Zalthlin realized too late. Stop! He launched forward, but Sharvana intercepted him, locking him in a grapple that sent both crashing into a railing. Sequence engaged! Ren shouted. We have seconds! Cass sprinted back. Everyone out! Now! The Marines carried Sharvana as alarms blared across the megastructure. A vortex of light consumed the core chamber, expanding outward. They reached the extraction platform as the Resolute locked onto them with emergency teleport beacons. Go! Cass yelled. Light engulfed them. The bridge materialized around Cass as the Resolute trembled under shockwaves. Ren collapsed into her station. The cradle is imploding! On the view screen, the star cradle folded inward, rings bending, singularity ripping through the megastructure.